how do you let go and still be centered? So today I'm going to share the ways that helped me and still help me today so that you can let go with grace and actually want to let go to feel a sense of freedom. Welcome back to my channel. My aim is to explore meaningful discussions, is to have meaningful discussions designed to uplift, inspire clarity and align you to your authenticity. This is a safe and inclusive space to reflect and grow. So today we're talking about letting go. So what does it really mean to let go, to surrender or release? It's a term we hear often, but it can be really confusing, especially when we've invested so much energy and time into a situation or a person or a goal. Why do we invest so much into that? Because we believe it will give us something that we truly desire, happiness, success, or maybe relief. But when these things don't work out the way that we hoped, letting go becomes really hard. Because we're not just letting go of the situation, we're letting go of the energy that we have invested, and that feels like a loss. So letting go doesn't mean giving up on your dreams or desires. It means releasing the resistance that you have to them. So when we're out of balance, which means we're constantly searching for answers outside of ourselves, we create resistance. True letting go is about coming back to your center. It's about finding relief and remembering that the desire for something different came because we experienced something that we didn't want. That contrast helps us refine what we truly desire. So the key isn't to force things to happen, but to align with yourself, to feel ease, and to allow inspired action to flow naturally. And that's where the magic happens. So inspired action is subtle. It's not a loud commanding voice shouting, do this. Instead, it's a gentle nudge, a thought like, go sit outside or take a walk or even make yourself a cup of tea. At first glance, these actions might seem insignificant, but they are the seeds of momentum. One small aligned step naturally leads to another, creating a flow that guides you towards something extraordinary, the thing that you really want. However, when we're out of balance, we often dismiss these nudges as not enough because they don't fit our preconceived idea of what an action should look like. So unlike deliberate actions driven by the mind's logic, do this to get that result, inspired actions often feel unrelated to the desired outcome. Yet it places you on a path of least resistance, aligning you with your goals in ways that you may not initially understand. So to fully embrace inspired action, avoid questioning or doubting it. Thinking of these steps as small experiments can help. To sort of try them out, observe how you feel and trust the process. Like links in a chain, each action connects to the next, creating a natural rhythm. And letting go doesn't mean abandoning your dreams. It's about releasing the resistance to them, so that you can hear those quiet, intuitive whispers guiding you from within. So how can we practice letting go? So here are 4 simple steps that really help me that you can follow today. So the first one is own your feelings. Say to yourself, I am responsible for my emotions, beliefs, and stories. By taking ownership, you empower yourself to change and to heal. 2, Feel your feelings. Allow yourself to sit with your emotions. Identify them clearly. Anger, sadness, or frustration maybe, and let them be there without judgment. These feelings show you where you've moved away from your centre and how you can find your way back. So 3 is witness the feeling in your body. Notice where the emotion sits in your body. Is it maybe in your chest or your stomach or your shoulders? Imagine sending love to that area, gently letting it dissipate. It's all about embracing the sensation, not forcing it away. 4 is express and journal. So write down what you're feeling. Journaling grounds the energy and helps you release it. Through this, you can gain insights and wisdom about the situation. Maybe seeing how things go round and round and seeing the patterns that may emerge. So these steps bring you back to balance and help you release resistance and align you with your authentic self. I'll be placing an emotional release meditation on YouTube, and there's one on Insight Timer, and I'll put the links in the description box below so that you can practice this yourself. So I'm actually just going to choose 3 cards from my Secret Language of Darkness deck, which will just help to shine some light on anything that may be holding you back from letting go. So let's just give them a bit of a shuffle. So with the 3 card spread, it will be past, present, and future. So what that means is the energy that has brought you to this moment is the past. Then we'll have the present moment, so what may be going on in your life now, and then we'll go into the future. So what that means is how that may look if you keep doing the very thing that you're doing. Okay, so or something else might come up, but that's generally past, present, future. So it's helping you to understand the timeline that you are on right now, which may be the pattern or the belief that you are bringing into this moment. Okay, so let's go for the past. So the past, we got projection. Oh, that's interesting. Okay, so there's the projection card there, and that is the world as your emotional canvas. Okay, so projection, and if you look at this person in the middle there, there's all those rays of energy coming out from that person, because of course everything in this world is a projection of how we perceive it. Now, what do I mean by that? Things are just happening in the world, but when you look at it, you're going to apply the filters and your beliefs on yourself, and then you look at that thing through the filters. Now, when we don't do the work on ourselves, and we've just talked about doing the emotional work, getting to understand what your feelings are and your emotions and where they are in your body so that you can release them and heal them. Now, if we don't do that conscious work and we just push them down further or ignore them or say it's someone else's fault, that will eventually be projected outward, and you'll find yourself complaining about these things even more. Now, it's projected outward so that you can see it more, so that you can maybe get the idea that this thing, you're holding yourself back, and the very thing that you might want to change in the world is the thing that is actually holding you away from you. Now, just as a quick little example of that, years ago I used to do a lot of work for fundraising and do a lot of work for the Tibetan Buddhists, the Chinese Tibetan Buddhists, because I didn't like what was occurring to them in their country. And I'm not a Buddhist. That was just something that I really felt aligned with at that particular time. It's probably a good 20 odd years ago. Anyway, I ended up meeting a Buddhist monk, and who was here to talk about the new ways of Buddhism and what they wanted for Tibetan Buddhism moving forward. I fortunately was able to talk to one of them who had pretty good English, and he said to me, "Okay, so tell me why you're helping us. What are you getting from this?" So I relayed the story to him, and and when I'd finished, he just sort of gently put his hand on my knee, and it was just a gentle, loving touch, and he said, "You don't have to tell me how I feel. I already know." And I felt like this white middle class do-gooder. And I thought, oh, and he said, but thank you for caring. Listen to what it is that we have to say here, and every day hold that vision, our new vision for where we want to go. Hold that in your meditations, or whatever it is that you do. He said, we don't understand why we're going through what we're going through, but we're going through it, and we're now creating what we really do want. And he went on to explain all of that. But the last thing he said to me was, and you're going to have to learn to love the Chinese government, otherwise you have become them. And I was like, oh. And then I realised about 6 months later that I was projecting my own stuff onto that circumstance. It was like, if I can just save them, maybe I can save myself, because somewhere in my life I felt repressed. I felt like I couldn't be who I wanted to be. I felt like the very thing that I wanted to do in life was being pushed away from me. So, and once I came to terms with that and realised that actually I'm in control of my own life, contrast happens in our life to help us come back to our centre and really feel the wonderment of who we are and how we can move forward with that and what we can create to be that. And once I really worked on that, the whole idea of helping the Tibetan Buddhists went away. However, I still kept them their idea of how they wanted to live and what they wanted for Tibetan Buddhism. That is still held within me even to today, and flows in my meditations. And it's not that I consciously think that, it's just part of me now, and it's part of me for the whole world, really, that new ways come up based on difficult circumstances and contrasts that's happening. How can we make the world better? How can we move away from war and peace, which are sort of two ends of the same stick? How can we bring that together and create something completely different that is a kindness for everyone, so everyone is accepted? So yes, you might think that's a bit of an idealistic way of being, but that's the ideas I hold within me, because we are shifting into a new earth and whole new ways of doing things, and the old ways aren't working. So, I don't want to be pushing against that, because even though I was a rebel, a lot's come from this projection card, even though I was a rebel and I wanted something different from a very early age, the rebel archetype in me is still quite strong, but I have transcended it now. I've moved it from a tribal place, which is when I'm just pushing against it, so to being aware of it, so unconscious, conscious, into the superconscious. And so the superconscious of the rebel for me now is to create something completely different. So just pushing against what is already here just makes me part of the problem. And so it's evolving beyond that, but the first thing in between that is I have to become aware of it and see what is in me. Why do I want, peace in the world? I used to go to a lot of peace rallies back in the 80s, and they would generally end up with people fighting. And it's like, So a lot of the time when we're at war with ourselves, or when we don't like something going on inside of ourselves, when we don't look at it, we project it outward and then say, when that thing changes, I'll feel better. But it will just be replaced with something else. So that's the projection card. Sorry, I seem to have waffled on a bit there, but let me just read it out to you. The world is your emotional canvas. Unacknowledged hurts from your shadow can be placed upon and attributed to someone or something. This is an unconscious way to protect yourself from inner conflict and worry. You may not be ready to process how you feel. However, your mind needs a perspective to help it understand a challenging event. So projection can occur without you realizing it, in a way to recognize and heal a hurt stored deep within your shadow. When something is in the shadows, it can't be seen, but it goes everywhere with you. You begin to see this aspect of your shadow world reflected in the world around you. When you understand that everything can teach you something about yourself, you can assess whether your uncomfortable feelings about someone or something highlight an unresolved personal hurt. Allow these feelings to inspire curiosity and wonder and create integrating and healing paths to your desires. So there you go. So that's the past. So now you're aware of stuff that can be projected outward. So that is the projection card. All right, so this is where we are now. Okay, so give them a bit of a shuffle. And we'll choose a card. I've got two coming out, so I'll see what the other one is. And grief. Grief has come out, and the other one there was self-awareness. So two cards came out, but we'll just quickly talk about the grief first. Everything is changing in this world, and this is opening a natural path to healing loss. Grief can feel really awful because it feels like something has gone away or we've lost something. But it's a necessary step to help you create something new out of that grief. Grief happens because you were attached to something so much, whether that was a person, a place, or a situation. And there's nothing wrong with really loving someone and having a lot of joy with something. There's nothing wrong with that. But when you look to that thing and say, I need that in my life to feel happy, if it ever goes away, you will feel awful. And that's that feeling of grief, because it can feel like a death within yourself. And we want to be able to just realize that grief is happening because that thing that was in your life, or that person was in your life, or whatever it was that was in your life, it's fallen away because it no longer is needed in your life. It's outdated, or maybe somebody just naturally died. And so I'm going to read, so this is where you are now. So if you are feeling grief with anything, if you look at the news and you're feeling grief, or if you're feeling grief about anything, it's like, okay, how is that helping you to create a better life for yourself and for humanity and for the world? And yeah, I get it. It's awful. Sometimes we look at things and we just do not understand why they are happening the way they are. And why are people going through such difficult circumstances? And, you know, I feel things very deeply. And watching people in grief and hurting, I just find myself crying. I used to try and stop myself, but now I just let it come up because it's my natural response to that. That's the human part of me. But the thing that I don't do now is, like what the Buddhist monk said to me, is get involved with where that is. Often the people who are going through things are not feeling the grief that I am, because they're there and they have to deal with it. And sometimes the grief comes up because we think, oh my goodness, I those poor people, I hope that never happens to me. And most people won't tell you that that's what they feel, but often we do, because everything tends to be about us and about the way that we see the world. And we don't want to be patronising to other people. We don't want to say, oh, they're going through a terrible time, because we don't know what they're going through. We look at the circumstances and think that it's terrible and it's awful. And I wish that nobody on this earth suffered or went through very difficult circumstances, or any animals or nature. The trees, we cut down the trees, they're going through a difficult time as well. So my wish would be that none of us went through that. However, in all of that contrast, we are learning how to create better ways. The shadow that has been pushed down for a long time is now coming up for us to heal, and it's time for us to really start going about things differently, because we are stepping into the age of Aquarius, which is doing things differently. So, grief. Opening a natural path to healing loss. Grief can be a whole person experience that flows through the body, mind and heart. This card has arrived to support and bring understanding to your grieving process. Loss can be met with shock or even denial, and emotions may fluctuate between rage and guilt. Then, in its own time, acceptance gently embraces you. Healing begins as you discover a new perspective through all the twists and turns that open the light of day to the other side of grief. You begin to feel lighter and more resilient, and realize that your soul's sweetness spilled through the cracks in your heart. Despite the pain of grief, your soul wants you to know how much you are loved, and your heart is more robust than you believe. When ready, it will work with you to heal and transform loss into liberation, bringing forth your strengths and renewed ways to assist yourself and others through grief. So if you are going through grief, just know that you're actually going through a doorway. You're starting your healing of maybe what you've been projecting outward, the outdated ideas. And all of this is about self-awareness. So if you're watching this reading today, this is really helping you to understand that you are becoming aware of you. You're beginning to realize that actually these emotions, these feelings that I'm having are helping me come back to my center of truth. Because if you constantly keep allowing yourself to be pulled in either direction, whether it be really something really good that you like or something that you don't like, if you feel yourself being pulled in these directions, you're moving yourself away from your center, and your center is your authentic self. It's your heart. It's the place that you can hear your truth. Truth, the authentic you, what resonates with you, the way you want to live your life, your soul's purpose. So, self-awareness. That was the other card that came out. Seen as two cards came out with the present moment now. So I thought it was important to talk about that one as well. Okay, so this is our last card. This is where we might be heading in where the energy is heading based on what you're feeling today. Now that means that you can also change it as well. So, guilt. I'm only laughing because, I felt guilt a lot of my life. Guilt has been a motivator for me to do many things in my life. But of course, when you do something from the place of guilt, things don't really work out exactly the way that you want, and we can end up being a little bit resentful because we've had to do something from guilt. Now, I will always say that guilt was invented to control us, to control a response. So what I've written here is a past stronghold is no longer true for you. So if someone, something, or society, or just a belief in something has had you doing something through guilt, meaning that if you didn't do it, something difficult might happen, or you might upset somebody, if that's the way you've been living your life, it's time to change. There are many rules and regulations out there. There are many beliefs, there are many ideas, and none of them are wrong and none of them are right. The thing to ask yourself is, when you are applying these beliefs or rules and regulations, how do you feel? Are you excited? Are you enjoying the process? Because if you're not, a little bit of resentment is being pushed down each time you have to abide by these rules and regulations that you don't like, or go along with these beliefs, or do something because somebody told you that this is the way that you had to do it to fit in or to be loved, or whatever. And I can tell you that resentment, I don't know why I do this, but it's like a little bit of resentment. Just, it's like you swallow it down and you push it down, it goes into the shadow, and it builds and it builds and it builds. And if you've I'm just going to use a quick example in my own life. I can remember with my first husband that I was constantly compromising myself to make him feel good about himself, because I don't know, I just thought that that's what I had to do. I don't know why, but that's just what I had been taught by my family, by society, that and also because of the empath in me, I always wanted somebody to feel good, and so even if I wanted, and it's not that I didn't argue, because that I can still be a bit of a feisty person, but there were many instances where I pushed down the words that were coming up, and I didn't say them. One, I felt I couldn't say them, I couldn't get them out, but also I just didn't want to, I didn't think that I was worthy of saying them as well. So and of course, when you don't communicate these things, the other person thinks that everything's okay, and they think that you agree with them. So but of course, what happened with me, every time I did that, this little bit of resentment just started to go down. Each time, it might have been tiny, that I didn't even think about it, but it builds up. And then one day, he put his toothpaste on the toothbrush the wrong way, and I blew up. It was like the thing that just blew the lid off the stuff in there, and it wasn't anything big, and really, who cares how people put their toothpaste on the toothbrush, but that particular night it annoyed me. It was like it either used too much or whatever. It doesn't really matter, because it had nothing to do with the toothpaste or the toothbrush. It was just the catalyst that blew the lid off my resentment, and whoa, it blew up. And of course, he's like, what on earth is going on with this person? And I didn't even really understand. All I knew is that I had this seething anger that just needed to come out, and he was getting the brunt of it because it was all his fault. Of course, it wasn't. It was my fault, because I had been eating this resentment. And that's just a little story about guilt, because I felt I had to do that to be a good person, to be a good wife, to be loved. And that all came from a space of guilt and the fact that I didn't feel worthy. So let me know in the comments below if you like my silly little stories. I'm always here to help you understand different aspects of yourself. And if my stories can help you or give you a sense of relief, because there's absolutely nothing wrong with the way that we are in our lives, but until we become, self-awareness helps us to change. And change doesn't mean that you have to become something different to what you are. What we want to do is allow the layers of stuff that we've wrapped around ourselves that doesn't resonate with us. We want that to fall away so that we can come back to our authentic self and start to allow that to shine in the world. And sometimes I can feel a little bit upset that it's taken me so long. I've just turned 59, and it's really only been in the last couple of years that I have felt that I can really start being me. And I want younger people to step into their power first. I don't want them to have to go through all the stuff that I went through in my life, trying to figure it all out. So I'm always here to help people to become more of who they are. So just to finish off, because, guilt. So if you find yourself in your self-awareness and feeling a little bit of grief in things that you may be letting go in your life, don't feel guilty about it. And don't let anyone else make you feel guilty about it either. So, look at that. We got the fulfillment card. So this is the best card in the deck. And this is just a little reminder, and the great card to end on with our little reading is that striking gold in every experience. That every experience has something wonderful and beautiful to offer. And every experience has its solution and the problem. They travel together. But if we're too busy focusing on the problem, we're not in the resonance of the solution, or we can't see it. Or if we think that, everything's wonderful and this is the solution to everything, we don't see the negative sides of it. So we want to be traveling through the middle of it and allowing everything, which is what I call unconditional love. Then you can choose what it is that you like, and that will give you fulfillment. So that's a really nice card to end on there. So thank you so much. I always have fun doing readings, and again, this is from my new card deck, The Secret Language of Darkness. I will be doing a little course on that soon to help you to work with that a little bit more as well. So thank you, and I hope that helped. So thank you for joining me today. And always remember that letting go is not about losing. It's about returning to yourself and creating space for what's truly meant for you. If you found this helpful, please like, subscribe and share this video. Maybe share it with someone who might need it. So until next time, as always, be kind, be curious and dream big.